And good evening, everyone. I'm Kira Phillips. We are interrupting Prime to bring you special live coverage of tonight's historic SpaceX launch from the Kennedy Space Center in Florida. Mike Massimino, he's a retired NASA astronaut who flew to space in two missions, conducted multiple spacewalks, and became the first person to actually send a tweet from orbit. He is going to be with us throughout our coverage, helping make sense of it all. Mike, it is so great to have you with us.
Karen, my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, and you and I were talking as we're watching these live pictures. Okay, put us in the mindset. Bring us inside the rocket. Tell us what's going through your mind when you are, we're T-minus, my gosh, less
pretty
than
close.
20, yes, less than 20 minutes. And that's what you're thinking, right? We are really close.
You know, for me, Kira, it was something I never thought I'd get a chance to do, even after I was selected as an astronaut, even after the initial training. 6 years of training when I did my first flight, and you're sitting there on the launch pad, still wondering, is this really going to happen? Am I imagining this? When am I going to wake up? It's a surreal experience. And you're thinking about what you need to do, what your procedures are if something happens, playing a little rock, paper, scissors with your buddy next to you, and just trying and hoping, because you never really know. Until the rocket lights you, you really don't know if you're actually going to go anywhere that day. But it looks pretty good today that they will be going somewhere.
And what do you think about these four and about this mission? Look, you were a trained astronaut. You're superhuman in a way, but all the training you have to go through and what you're doing.
No, really.
Oh, trust me, I know people that know you.
Yeah.
But these are civilians. These are people like us, right?
Yep.
How remarkable is this to you?
Well, they are the commander, Jared, who's springing for all this, is a very accomplished pilot. What he's been able to do as a civilian flying high-performance jet aircraft, he is used to following procedures. He knows about safety. I think he's a good person to lead this crew. But I really think it's a testament to the vehicle, to the spacecraft. When we flew the space shuttle, it was really manually intensive. The men and women who flew that spaceship as commanders and pilots, or astronaut pilots, had very accomplished careers as test pilots. Thousands of hours of training for the one landing they were going to do with the space shuttle. It's so intensive, human intensive. The training was so much for emergencies over and over again. That was what took up a lot of our time. This spacecraft, as Gio said in his piece, is really highly automated, and we're able to now send people with some basic training, with some knowledge, to space inside of this vehicle because of the automation. 1970s technology with the space shuttle. 21st century technology with the SpaceX
We've come
vehicle.
a long way.
We've come a long way, and this is the benefit. My astronaut colleagues who are still there flying, the group that just went up a few months ago, their training flow was much less with this vehicle than anything close to what we had with the space shuttle because of the automation involved.
Let's take a look at this animation that I want to show you. It actually shows the Inspiration 4 plan there to go further into space than Richard Branson with Virgin Galactic, also further than Jeff Bezos and the Blue Origin launch, okay? Even beyond the International Space Station before orbiting at 360 miles above Earth. How much does that raise the stakes here, you think?
It's interesting, Kira, because the Hubble Space Telescope, my mission to the Hubble, was around that altitude. I'm going to go check the numbers to see if they're getting higher than us, but I think they might beat us by a couple miles.
Really?
Well, we were up about 350, between 350 and 360. I think they're going to beat us. But what it does is a couple things. As far as what you can see the curvature of the planet more, and that is just unbelievable. But from a safety perspective, what I'm interested to maybe learn a little bit more about, if we can, is the margin that you have. Going that high with the space shuttle, it didn't give us as much margin going to the lower altitude. In other words, you need to have fuel to come home with. If you had a leak, if you had a performance issue, you would have a problem going to the higher altitude and coming back. I am sure they're not putting these people at risk. So maybe their margin's much higher than that. They actually can go much higher, because if you have a leak or a performance issue and you're not able to come back from that altitude, of course, that would be a problem. We had some procedures in our checklist when we got through our training for Hubble. Like, hey, we don't have these failures. And they go, yeah, you guys don't need to worry about that, because we couldn't recover from them. There was a list of unlikely failures that if we had those failures and you had them going to space station, you could still come home. Going to Hubble, we couldn't recover from a few of those things.
That's a reality check right there.
But that's the way it was first. When I heard about this and they were concerned about getting them there to that higher altitude, You get a much better view, I think, and it's worth it to get up there. And I'm sure they packed in some margin. I'm just wondering how much.
Well, stay tuned. We're going to follow it. You're going to be with us through the night.
I'm not going anywhere.
Yeah, don't you dare. Don't you dare leave.
It's good stuff.
All right. Well, it's going to be incredible, Mike. And 39A, this is a historic launch pad. This is where the men launched to go to the moon.
I launched from there twice.
There you
go.
It's
it looks a lot different, though, Kira, than when they went to the moon and when we launched space shuttles from it. But
and we're
it looks pretty
talking
cool.
17,500 miles per hour.
Yeah, it's a lot of speed. You need that amount of speed and that amount of energy to get to orbit.
Waiting for the startup call at T-minus 1 minute.
So they're keeping the crew informed, giving them updates about, I'm sure these are checklist items that particularly Jared's probably checking off and making sure to hit those milestones. It's always good to hear these things when you're in the spaceship, because you know things are going well those last few minutes. 17,500 miles an hour. They're going to go from 0, where they are now, standing still, to that speed in 8.5 minutes. It's you know you're moving, you know you're going somewhere when this happens.
And that G-force that they practiced on the centrifuge, I mean, they're ready. It's like an elephant sitting on your chest when you are about to launch.
About 3 times your body weight, so whatever you weigh, multiplied by 3. I felt like I had 3 big dudes sitting on me. That's what I felt like for a few minutes.
And it's the final 25 seconds, T-minus 24, 23. Was your heart racing at this point, Mike?
Yeah, it really is surreal. Like, is this really going to happen? But yeah, it's like too late now. They're going to let me go. We just need a little more time. Let's get out of here.
Here we go. They are strapped into that capsule atop a 200-foot tall SpaceX rocket, about to blast them into space, past the speed of sound. Here we go.
Copy, 1 Alpha.
Vehicles pitching downrange.
Stage 1 propulsion is nominal.
T plus 30 seconds. Call-outs indicate nominal. Historic mission flying the Inspiration 4 crew. Onboard Dragon and Falcon 9. Great view of the crew in the capsule. We're into the throttle down, into the throttle bucket.
Stage 1 throttle down.
Throttling down in preparation for the period of maximum dynamic pressure.
So what we're seeing here, they just called maximum dynamic pressure. As they get higher in the altitude, the forces build up on the vehicle. It's an important piece to get through, but everything's going really well. What I think is really cool here too is that it's a night launch, so we're going to see quite a show because you're going to see, it's light up the night sky. When the booster returns, we'll see that as well. So it's night launches, especially for this vehicle, are even more spectacular, I think, than what you see during the day.
I'll tell you, my heart was beating because as soon as you see those. There we go. We got the thumbs up from the crew.
Yeah.
See, you know what's incredible about this? Not only watching the rocket live take off, but being able to see the picture of the 4 inside as well. Just that dual image, and you can hear the cheering inside. Okay, so this is a great sign.
This is really good. Yeah, everything's going well. We hear the cheers of the control room. Absolutely. So what's happened is I think we just had staging. So this is part of the show that we're going to get tonight. That I've seen. I was at the launch back in April. My friends who are up there in space now, Shane Kimbrough, Megan MacArthur, and a couple other, Aki Hoshidi from Japan, a spec out from France. Anyway, they went up back in April, and it was a night launch, and we got to see this spectacular sight that we're seeing now.
Followed by stage separation, looking at the second stage engine nozzle, and then ignition of the second stage.
So they're looking for the second stage to ignite here. And we're going to see.
Miko.
Okay, so. Cool.
There it goes.
There it goes. And we see that engine ignite, which is a really good sign. So that's staging. So the first stage is done. It's going to come back to Earth and hopefully land on a platform, which is amazing accomplishment. And we're probably going to be seeing 2 two views here. The one on the left is the vehicle coming back to Earth, landing on a platform in the middle of the ocean. When I saw them demonstrate this return capability of that booster, I became a believer in SpaceX about 12 years ago when they first did it, because I was like, I don't know if this can really work, but to be able to figure this out, to return the booster back to a not even, it doesn't have to come back to land. They can return it out in the ocean.
To an actual target.
To a target in the ocean. It requires very little fuel to do that, so they can use most of the fuel to get to space. Just a little bit is needed to return it because it lands back out in the ocean, but the technology involved is mind-boggling at night in the ocean, so they can reuse it. So the two things that I think are key to this new space age that we're seeing here is the automation that allows almost anybody to go, and the reusability. They're going to get that booster back to be able to use it again.
Yeah,
you told me this now. It's too late.
See, Mike had no idea. So
all these things could happen to you.
That explains everything right now,
That's
Mike.
Good. And it shows what Gio did before was kind of what Hakeem so eloquently mentioned is how we saw with Gio, he was in the airplane in free fall. But they had to pull up after a few seconds. They couldn't just keep going because they would impact the Earth. They weren't going fast enough to miss the Earth. So if you can go as fast as the SpaceX folks are going, as Hakeem said, that's a difference between what Gio did just for a couple seconds and doing it for a long time.